The film begins with a boy named Oscar, a quiet and lonely child, rehearsing his revenge on his bullies. He was regularly tormented by other children and never had the courage to stand up for himself. Though timid in reality, he found satisfaction in imagining acts of revenge at night. One evening, as he practiced outside, he noticed a mysterious girl his age through a window. Her name was Ellie, and she had just moved into the apartment next door with an older man named Hakan. Oscar didn't pay them much attention at first and went to bed with a knife under his pillow, a habit that reflected his inner fear and anger. Soon, after Ellie and Hakan moved in, they began covering their windows with cardboard and sheets. The next evening, Hakan ventured into a forest near a road, where he hung a man upside down from a tree and slit his throat to drain his blood. But before he could finish, a dog and its owner approached, forcing Hakan to flee, leaving the job incomplete. That same night, Oscar was again outside practicing when Ellie appeared beside him and strangely declared, "I can't be your friend," even though Oscar hadn't spoken to her. He noticed she wore light clothing despite the snowy weather, and when she returned home, she angrily scolded Hakan for not bringing back blood. The following day, news of the murdered man spread through the town. Oscar's mother, fearful, urged him to come home early, but Oscar had an unusual fascination with crime and violence. He recorded such events in a personal diary. Sneaking out again, he met Ellie, who showed interest in his Rubik's Cube. Sitting beside him, Oscar remarked that she smelled odd and looked cold, but Ellie denied feeling any discomfort. He gave her the Rubik's Cube to try, and as he walked away, we saw Ellie's face momentarily look older and more hollow, revealing a deep hunger. Later that night, a couple walked down a bridge and said goodbye to their friend Pithal. A girl, actually Ellie in disguise, asked a man for help, then suddenly jumped on him and sucked his blood. This shocking scene was witnessed by the man's friend. It became clear that Ellie was a vampire, and Hakan had been killing for her. When Ellie returned home, Hakan scolded her again, and Oscar overheard their argument through the thin apartment walls. The man who saw Ellie attack his friend reported the incident to others. Although initially disbelieved, he persuaded them to investigate the site. All they found was blood because Hakan had disposed of the body in a frozen river. Meanwhile, Oscar grew more attached to Ellie, often glancing up at her window from school. When she wasn't visible, he felt disappointed, but one night he found her waiting for him. They exchanged names and ages, though Ellie hesitated before claiming to be 12, the same as Oscar. At school, Oscar began writing messages in Morse code, so they could communicate through their shared apartment wall. One night, Oscar was cornered by bullies again. One of them even cut his face with a blade, but Oscar didn't react, unsettling them. Later, he gave Ellie the Morse code list and explained how they could tap messages through the wall. When she saw his injured face, Ellie encouraged him to stand up for himself next time, even urging him to kill them if necessary. Oscar, seeing how close Ellie and Hakan were, noticed Hakan's tension. One night, Oscar brought Ellie a cookie, but she vomited it soon after eating. Still, he hugged her and left for his father's house for a few days. Before he left, Ellie asked a strange question. "If I'm not a girl, would you still like me?" Oscar, confused, didn't reply. Hakan, now desperate to get blood for Ellie, targeted a boy at a basketball camp. He lured him into a bathroom, hung him upside down, and tried to drain his blood. But the boy's friends arrived and caught Hakan. To avoid capture, Hakan poured acid on his own face and was rushed to the hospital. Ellie sensed this through her heightened hearing and visited the hospital. To feed Ellie one last time, Hakan offered his neck to her before falling out the window, making his death appear accidental. That night, Ellie climbed into Oscar's bed, and when he asked again if she would be his friend, Ellie replied, "I'm not a girl." Oscar, half asleep, didn't fully understand. When he woke up the next morning, Ellie was gone, but had left a note saying she could either stay or leave. On a school field trip, the bullies tried harassing Oscar again. This time, Oscar fought back, hitting one of them with a stick. Meanwhile, 2 children discovered the body Hakan had dumped. It hadn't drifted far due to the frozen river, and soon, the news of the strange death spread rapidly. Oscar proudly shared his brave story with Ellie that night. During their talk, he cut his hand to show his loyalty and bond with Ellie through blood, but this triggered a wild reaction in her. Overcome with hunger, she urged him to leave. Oscar didn't, so Ellie ran off and perched on a tree, waiting to attack a passerby. That night, she attacked a man, but his friend intervened and saved him. Ellie fled, and in the morning, the injured man's wife, Virginia, began experiencing strange symptoms. She had been turned into a vampire. Virginia visited her neighbor's house, where the cat sensed her transformation and attacked her. Injured and confused, she ended up in the hospital. Meanwhile, Oscar visited Ellie's apartment and confronted her. "Are you a vampire?" he asked. Ellie admitted she was, but insisted she wasn't dead. She showed him treasures she had stolen over the years and offered him money, but Oscar only wanted friendship. He quietly left. Virginia, overwhelmed by the pain of her transformation and fearing what she might become, asked her friend to finish Ellie. She then opened the hospital window, allowing the sunlight to consume her in flames. That same night, Ellie visited Oscar again and asked for permission to enter. When he jokingly refused, she stepped inside anyway, and immediately her body began bleeding from her eyes, ears, and nose. Oscar, shocked, gave her permission, and she was saved. For the first time, Ellie showed Oscar her true, aged vampire form. Oscar's mother nearly discovered Ellie, so she slipped back to her own apartment through the window. Later, Oscar followed her. They talked through the night and fell asleep together. In the morning, Ellie left a note saying she was in the bathroom and couldn't see him, but she wrote, "I like you." Oscar was elated. That night, Oscar returned to Ellie's place. At the same time, Virginia's friend arrived to kill Ellie. Oscar spotted him and intervened with a knife. Ellie awoke and attacked the man, draining his blood. Oscar had saved her life, and she embraced him in gratitude, but she knew she couldn't stay. She had to leave to avoid being caught. Later, at school, Oscar received a message from his classmates inviting him to the swimming pool. Thinking they wanted to be friends, he went, but it was a trap. The bully's older brother demanded Oscar stay underwater for 3 minutes or be killed. When Oscar resisted, he was forced into the water by his hair. The others grew frightened, begging the older boy to stop, but he refused. Just as Oscar began to drown, the boy's severed head fell into the water, followed by his dismembered hand. Ellie had returned to save Oscar. She killed everyone except one boy who had never bullied Oscar. In the final scene, Oscar is seen sitting in a train during the day with a large trunk beside him. Inside the trunk, Ellie is hiding, and they are now traveling together into an uncertain future.